Welcome everyone to the August session of the Ag Economic Dialogues. We have with us Dr. Evert Sluis today, and Jack Davis are going to give a couple presentations. So I'm going to turn it over to Evert first. He can share his slides and introduce himself a little bit as we go from there. So it's up to you, Evert.
Good morning, everyone. Can everybody hear me? And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Share screen is okay. So it's move-in day here at SDSU. So there's lots of activity going on campus. I'm going to talk about first some apologies to Heather for changing my title, but I labeled it as global and domestic forces affecting the ag sector. And okay, now my forward thing, there it is. So here's a quick overview. I'm going to talk, I divided it into international/global forces and domestic issues. On the international side, there are some things that if you follow the news, much of that is we already know about, but I'm going to focus a bit on the Ukrainian war, some concerns about Taiwan and China, mention climate change, but I'm not going to talk much time. I won't talk much about that. And then I thought, because the Inflation Reduction Act is still so new, I try to focus a little bit on that, and then some other odds and ends. So I thought it might be helpful to put in perspective where we just came from. We've had a long period of time in the last several decades of relative economic stability. So, and this is maybe much that we took for granted with stable and solid economic growth and good economic policy management, a lot of trade, which is very important for agriculture, and as we have become aware of in recent times, very low inflation for an extended period of time. We had integrated markets. And again, that's important for agriculture, and increasingly integrated markets until fairly recent. Low cost services, energy and commodities, slow wage growth, in part because of a lot of immigration, and then technological innovation and a lot of geopolitical stability. At least in a historical sense, it was relatively stable. There were some cracks in that, what has been called the Great Moderation, that decades period of relatively economic stability, starting out with the 2008 global financial crisis, and then recently, of course, we've been reminded about it as part of the COVID-19 recession, where we've experienced higher than expected inflation. A lot of economists didn't expect that it was going to get so high. Worse than anticipated slowdown in China, and then lots of negative spillovers from the war in Ukraine. So here's some things, all this stuff that you hear about, backlash against hyper globalization, people upset about income and wealth inequality, international tensions with China, with Iran, with other countries. Demographic aging, not stuff you hear much about, but it is important. It's a long-term trend where young people tend to produce and save, and older people tend to spend down, and so that has an impact on the economy also. And then important for agriculture, of course, is trade disruption due to that geopolitical turmoil. Mentioned climate change. And then, of course, pandemics and all these other things. So this is a pretty negative, pessimistic look at what the world seems to be these days. On the supply side, there's some demand factors, if I might call them that, also where we have some unconventional monetary and other policies, a large public and private debt, leading to a type of debt trap that anytime the policymakers try to normalize monetary policy, they find that they can't do that. You squeeze the balloon somewhere, the pressure shows up at another place. And so there might be a likelihood that to get rid of that debt is to make use of what has been referred to as an inflation tax, meaning you try to get, interest rates fairly high to take advantage of unexpected price growth, so that you kind of deflate the high levels of debt. So this is a very pessimistic look at the world, and you hear about this a lot. On the other side, on the optimistic side, I think it seems, in the past, at least, recessions have always been unexpected. And today it seems like everyone seems to think that a recession is about to come next year. The other thing is that the University of Michigan 5-year inflation expectations indicator says that inflation is not even at 3% for 5 years down the road. So, and there are other indicators for the medium and long run that shows similar signs, have similar signs. Commodity prices have eased somewhat in recent weeks, although food prices are still high. And then the other thing is, a lot of people seem to think that central banks don't like financial rallies, but just because they have interfered in the past doesn't mean they will so again in the future. So if we do see a financial rally, it doesn't necessarily mean that the central bank is going to intervene. So times could be different from what they have been in the past. So a few notes on the Ukraine war. I've focused quite a bit on that in terms of big picture items. So we see that the war has been slowing the economic recovery that was just about to start after COVID, and then in February that war started. So that has put pressure on inflationary trends. And that war is causing lots of hardship and the risk of famine around the world, especially in low-income countries that rely so much on grains coming from not just Ukraine, but also from Russia. All of that, much of that grain has been stopped going to these countries. And so we see on the right-hand side vulnerabilities with regards to the interest rates that are associated with bonds for developing countries. So they face high costs of debt payments potentially. So we see that GDP growth projections, according to the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development here, has been declining for all of these countries that are listed here on the right-hand side. And these supply chain disruptions are a major setback for much of the world. And of course, much of that was made worse by the Chinese shutdown. They have stubbornly stuck to their zero COVID policy, but that also means that they're more vulnerable to COVID should it spread in China. And so it's kind of put a damper on economic growth, as I'm going to get into in a few moments. Europe has been hit hard by Ukraine, in part because it is so close to, of course, Ukraine is in Europe, but the European Union has been hit hard because of exposure to the war. They rely very strongly on energy flows from Russia, as we hear so much about in the news. And that has led to higher commodity prices worldwide, as we're all so aware of. So lower incomes, especially in Europe, and it's widely expected that Europe is going to hit. It's very likely it's going to hit major recession in the not too distant future. So we see here, projections for growth, the impact that it has, for inflation that we have here for the different countries that are listed here. So it has had a big impact on consumer price inflation across the world. So much of this is already in the news. I'm following, the latest projections of the OECD, and I looked a little bit of IMF, the International Monetary Fund for Global Economic Growth. And they basically say the same thing. At the same time, though, most economists expect that inflation is going to be dampening and maybe next year, that it's the expectation that there's going to be a gradual reduction of these supply chain and commodity pressures, and that might have a reducing impact on interest rates. Of course, in the last year, many economists have been wrong. If you see some of this, the numbers, about projections versus real inflation levels, they were in the low end of the ballpark many times. So we'll see what happens. What happens when if this really comes to fruition. But again, core inflation is projected to be fairly high for many economists. We've learned so much about the importance of Ukraine that together with Russia, they provide a lot of. They have been very important for commodities, not only for wheat, sunflower, oil products, but also for fertilizers when it comes to international fertilizer trade, and so on and so forth. So these prices of these commodities have increased a lot, but recently they have gone down somewhat in the last couple of months, but they're still high by historical standards. So I put in here a few slides about. Here we have oil prices, and we do see a downward trend in the last month or two. Question is, of course, is this going to last? And is the price decline, is it due to recession worries? Diesel, same thing, has gone down. Of course, diesel prices are still very high. And then fertilizer prices, similar, but they remain very high also. Davis knows more about this than I do, but it's somewhat surprising to me that farm real estate values are keep going up, and we're close to 19% showed about a 19% increase last year, according to USDA figures. Maybe Jack will have more precise information about this than I do at this point. But the war, in any case, is causing lots of hardship, and there's big concern. There's still lots of concerns about that it might cause famine and social unrest in some countries. I don't know. Many of you may remember what happened at the start of the uprising in the Middle East. That started with really had we hear about Tunisia, how it started there, but it really before that there was social unrest in Egypt also, and that was due to food prices, or more specifically bread prices at the time. So anytime food prices go up by a lot, that means people get very concerned and unhappy about that, then they might express that. So that's always a concern, not just for local political leaders, but also for international international peace, so to speak. Here is what the international food prices show, that yes, over the last couple of months they've gone down, few months I should say, but that's on the right hand side where we see 2022, that red line. But if you look at real food prices, they're still very high by historical standards, as that left graph shows. So again, real means adjusted for inflation. Nominal means that's just the price that you and I pay in the store. Same is true for the United States, where we have on the left-hand side, I have here some products picked for price comparison between today and last year. And then overall, prices of food at home foods have increased quite dramatically, and food away from home less so at this time. But I imagine that they will get more in line with one another at some point in the future. Of course, these price rises undermine purchasing power, and people are going to cut back on other items. So we've now talked about this for quite some time. So there's also some hopeful signs. I heard this morning on the radio that 25 ships had left Odessa, the port, that big important port for Ukraine on the western side of Ukraine, along the Black Sea. So 25 ships leaving. because of that deal that Ukraine made with Russia, involving also Turkey and the United States. But of course, there's a war going on, so it's highly questionable if that deal is going to last. And there's lots of logistical issues. They really need more volume and bigger capacity to really make a dent. On the right-hand side in this figure, we see the backlog that they need to be able to overcome. So again, why is this so important is that according to the United Nations, there are about 50 million people in 45 countries that are on the edge of famine. And these are traditionally countries that have relied a lot on these exports from, or imports, I should say, from Russia and Ukraine. So here's those 25 ships, but what's really needed is a quadrupling of the number of ships that, to really make a dent. And so this agreement, this deal has been in the news a lot as though it's going to solve many of the problems, but it may not necessarily be the case. It won't necessarily solve the world's food shortages, particularly as time progresses and Europe will maybe enter a recession as as energy prices increase and so on. All these things combined that we've already talked about. I'd like to switch and move over to China. So China has experienced some economic difficulties lately with its zero COVID policies, which has really dampened its economic outlook. It has led to isolation from the rest of the world and within China. And this issue of the Chinese not having much of a built-up immunity, they have not had access to mRNA vaccines, so they really at still very high risk. And then recently, what we've seen is this real estate crash, and which has led the Chinese government to cut interest rates. So this is opposite to what the United States has done and other Western industrialized countries have done, meaning China is quite concerned about its lack of economic growth. So we hear in the news some of maybe they're not troubles, but some concerns about where Taiwan fits in all of this. So of course, Beijing considers Taiwan part of its territory. It has only 23 million people, but it plays a very large role in business. And the Taiwan Strait is a very important shipping route, or near very important global shipping route. So if there would be some sort of a blockade, which would be illegal by international law or an act of war, that would have major ripple effects for not just Taiwan and not just China, but for global trade. And of course, agriculture is very dependent on exports to various countries in that area, in that region of the world. Hopefully, though, there are some maybe this is just a lot of posturing, and it could be that China realizes that if it would engage in that type of those type of activities like trade blockade or worse, that we have to realize China itself relies on trade on Taiwan, and it needs chips from Taiwan also. So its own supply chains would be disrupted as well. So it would have to pay a very high price, just for not talking about any other repercussions that it might face from other countries such as the United States. And then just recently in the news, I think it was yesterday, that an announcement was made that the United States and Taiwan were going to start formal talks about developing better trade relationships. And this is expected to have, if this comes to fruition, this would have positive implications for U.S. meat and dairy, for the U.S. meat and dairy sector. Just a note on the past trade war that we had with China is that I think we have to realize and learn from this that trade is not really a zero-sum game. It's a zero-sum game. That it's if I trade with another country, that doesn't mean it's either you win or I win. Both partners can win from trade, and I think that's a lesson that hopefully we have learned after we started a trade war with China. And the deals that were made didn't really turn out the way that had been agreed to, that in the end, ag exports only reached about 83% of the commitments that were made. So it's easy to sign a piece of paper, but it ended up not working out the way either party had anticipated. And we can talk about why that might be or why that might not be, but this is just this is sort of the bottom line. And serves as a good reminder that nobody wins in these trade wars. So ag stands to benefit if countries don't do that kind of thing. A note on climate, because it's been in the news so much. Probably heard that the 7 Western states couldn't agree on a way to reduce water consumption by 15%. So the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation had to do its job and told 2 states, Arizona and Nevada, to reduce their water output. Nevada should be minus 8%. And then Mexico also, water consumption, I should say. And that's affecting the ag sector where, we rely on leafy greens from Arizona in the winter. And then, of course, we hear a lot about how the cotton harvest is the cotton production is hurt because of the drought in the West. I don't know to what extent that has direct implications for South Dakota, but it is something to keep an eye on. We might see shifts of certain types of production of products, crops from those areas to parts of other states, and because farmers in the West are being paid not to plant crops. This is the latest drought monitor. I'm sure many of you keep an eye on this. South Dakota has been faring relatively well, if I may say so, but of course we are having some areas of drought in our state also. And then we see the West and the South that is particularly affected. Other parts of the world also, Europe is in a particular dry condition right now. We hear about the Po value in northern Italy, which is an important agricultural producer. The Loire in France, a wine producer. And then, but you see in this map, it's all over the place. This report, I put this in because it just came out over the past week, that shows for different states what the impact of climate change might have. And then for South Dakota, the number of very hot days is expected to increase quite a bit. Something to keep an eye on. Nothing that is going to affect the immediate harvest time and prices, but it is something that's in the back, that ought to be in the back of our minds at the very least, I would say. So I'm running out of time, but if it's okay, Jack, I'm going to talk a few minutes about the Inflation Reduction Act. So total funding of over 400 billion, 44 billion to 4 types of programs, with a focus on farm bill conservation, rural development, and then borrower assistance, and then forestry. What we have here, so this is for conservation. So most of the conservation money the conservation is one of the areas where the money is divided over several years. The other areas, the money becomes available and can be spent until 2031. But for conservation, it's more spread over the year as it is for rural development. So most of these funds are meant to respond to climate change. So this is on the conservation side, more on the conservation side. So specifically for the EQIP program, the CSP program, regional conservation partnership program, and then the conservation easement program. Funds must be spent by 2031, as I said. And in this picture, it shows, we have in green, we have the conservation funds spent, that's in the Farm Bill. And these funds, as part of the Inflation Reduction Act, come in addition to that. So this money is available, becomes available in addition to what has been spent, what is available for the as part of the Farm Bill. So that money is there, and it increases for conservation up until the year 2026. So then we have it there's money available for rural development, and what you see here is less spread out over time. It becomes available right away, but it has to be spent by 2031, by the year 2031. Same is true for FSA loans. So it's different kinds of programs that are listed here, money available until the year through the fiscal year 2031. And then we have forestry, which I'll skip over. So this is a summary. So the actual impact of this is going to be uncertain. Main thing to remember is that it adds the amount of money, it is added to the amount of money that is available as part of the Farm Bill. But at the same time, though, what we're going to see is that we are going to see discussions in the Farm Bill, and so this is going to make the discussion in the Farm Bill a little bit more convoluted. Is it going to be continued the case? Is it going to be the case that these monies will be added to funds available as part of the Farm Bill, or are they going to be mixed in more, I would say. Just a note on projected farm incomes. They're projected to be fairly stable according to the Minneapolis Fed, same for Kansas, the Kansas City Federal Reserve Bank. Just recently, a couple of items here. Senator Thune, together with John Tester from Democrats from Montana, have recently introduced a new mandatory country of origin labeling bill. And so that's something to keep on the radar. Previously ruled illegal or incompatible with WTO rules. We'll see what happens if the rules can be written in such a way that it would be compatible with WTO rules. And then there's this final item that maybe Jack Davis will, because he's going to talk, I think, about crop insurance. That study that recently showed that about a third of all prevent plant corn and soybean acres went to North and South Dakota out of all of these states. So this is something to keep on the radar. This suggests that the prevent plant days, the dates for prevent plant, have been are maybe not set the best way. Again, because South and North Dakota, they are getting about a third of all prevent plant corn and soybean acres money, and so that's an interesting discovery that I'm sure we'll be hearing more about as the Farm Bill discussions are going to be ongoing. So all of this is to say, what can we conclude from this? Next year, likely going to be tougher for crop producer profitability, but I think maybe for livestock also, because all of these inputs, maybe except feed, are going to be higher costs for producers. So the assumption is here that corn and soybean prices are going to be somewhat below this year's, but doesn't look like fertilizer and other input prices are going to let up all that much. And so that may have an impact on next year's crop choices. And so all of this is going to put pressure on Congress to add money to the Farm Bill commodity title. And again, those discussions have already started, but they will be ramping up next year, and it will be interesting to follow it. Sorry, I'm going over time. Always more to talk about about these issues, but I'll gladly take any questions. Thank you.
So we'll open it up for a question now if you'd like. Otherwise, at the end of the session today, we'll turn the recording off. And if you have questions, you can ask them there as well. Okay, so I think we'll turn it over to Jack at this time, and everybody can type their questions into the chat as you think of them in the next half hour or so, and we will go from there.
Do I start sharing, or does Evert have to stop? There we go, he stopped. And hopefully Evert doesn't go away, and I know he's not, because I have questions for him. Thanks, Evert. That was a good lead in. So just contact information, and I got a variety of things. We will look at prevent plant, and they did a resurvey, so we'll look at that. I have some charts of where prices have come, little discussion there, and then some things on crop insurance and stuff. So just kind of a variety, and we'll go through it so we can get to questions. So just did charts of wheat and corn, soybeans, winter wheat here, and yeah, maybe this shows our premiums that we had due to maybe the wet weather and the dry weather in the south, wet weather up this way, North Dakota, and also then the war efforts. And you know, as we got into harvest, maybe things weren't quite as bad. I think winter wheat in the south was very, very poor, but it was better up north. And it might just be showing, gosh, we had a lot of premium in the market due to all the uncertainty and wondering if grains would start to get shipped out of Ukraine. So just wanted to show these charts. I know on this daily chart that's showing for 1 year, it looks like, oh man, we've really missed that high. But if I looked at these on a monthly chart for 10 years, and their prices are still pretty good compared to what they have been over 10 years. Now, with inputs up, that makes it tough too. But we haven't maybe missed all of the good out of this yet. And then just corn and also then just soybeans. And we can come back to those if you have questions, but I just wanted to present those. So USDA did their August report a week ago and actually do surveys for production. And this is just showing that sample size of 15,000. So, and then they resurveyed for the prevent plant type things. I just wanted to share that with you. Here's number of surveys per state. And then wanted to highlight, this was our June resurvey, and looking at the prevent plant, you know, a lot of it, as Evert had said, North Dakota and South Dakota. And this would be for the season that we just got. So big reductions in North Dakota for corn and soybeans. On a national level, it did not come out to be that much. So as Evert was pointing out in the study on crop insurance, and the other one that would have a big play on that was 2019, and then also 20. South Dakota and North Dakota led the nation in the prevent plant acres in those record wet years. So yeah, though I'm sure that will be revisited. So here's where we ended up as a total for planted acres, it's about down 4% from last year or the previous season. And then it's also showing for the top 5 states by production. So I think the thing that we are just kind of trying to pick up from that is that, you know, our ending stocks to use out of this last report was hanging right at that 10%, which is kind of at the top of the low end, if we can say that. And will, as we get into harvest, will the areas that do have decent production, will that make up for any shortfalls that we may have in the West? And I think that'll be key as we start getting through harvest. I'm having trouble seeing my screen here. Bushels and percent change from previous year, just showing those. So right now, as of August, saying South Dakota is going to be pretty good, or compared to last year. As we see Nebraska, and I don't know if anybody's been down through Nebraska, I do hear that even though the irrigation things look tough down in there, and then further south. No change in Iowa, and Iowa, of course, is the big state, and a little bit up in Illinois. And then our southeast was dry also throughout the growing year. You don't seem to want to move. Here we go. So we're ending up with corn production right at 14.4 billion bushels for the year. You know, again, that kind of leaves us with that around 10% stocks to use at the end of the year. And then looking at soybeans, it's kind of the same thing. A little more acres, and right now we're kind of really waiting on that August weather. So far, looking pretty decent, I think, for most of the growing region. So probably expecting a good production in soybeans this year. I did have a chance to get into a field this last weekend. I just wanted to share some pictures of some ears. So we'll see how much of South Dakota ended up like this, and how much is better. So on the low side, this probably ends up about a 76 bushel yield. On the higher side, it's probably double that, or close to 130, 140. And a lot's going to depend on ear count. In the guy's field that I was in here, they had hail in this, so there was a lot of ears missing and stalks missing. So that population will be real variable throughout the field, I believe. I want to talk a little bit about some insurance products and what we have going on there, and then some closing dates and things that are taking place. We'll talk more on margin protection. It's not a lot sold, and it is an area product, and it also then works on margin, and I'll go through that a little bit. But it's going through its price discovery time right now, which is started on the 14th and it'll end on September 15th. And then the sales closing date is 9/30. It can be used with other products too. So it wouldn't be necessarily a standalone. It's probably not real popular out here because it is an area, well, it's called an area type product. And that means it's not an individual coverage. It's settled to county yields and county cost. So I think guys would rather spend their crop insurance money or protection money on individual coverage rather than group things, but it may be worth looking into for some. And then on winter wheat, we're also going through price discovery at this time for next year. So our projected price, let me check and see. Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah, our projected price is in price discovery at this time for winter wheat. And then for spring wheat, it is in price discovery for harvest price. Winter wheat sales closing is 9/30. And then the other deadline, which is a little way further away, is pasture range forage protection. And that's closing as of December 1st for next year's coverage. So here's our projected price, or in other words, our spring price for the various crops. Corn was right at $5.90. Beans were $13.33, I believe. And then winter wheat's harvest price was at $8.72, and its spring price for winter wheat was at $7.10. Get my cursor to the right place. And then spring wheat, its projected price was $9.19, and right now the harvest price is at $8.93. So down a little bit from its spring price on spring wheat. Also, then winter wheat is in discovery for next year's projected price, and that is at $8.51. So $1.40 higher than last year for winter wheat on the projected price. So if guys have moisture and are interested in winter wheat, we'd probably still have another good coverage. Now fertilizer and cost may be higher than they were last fall as we put it in too. So I got a very busy slide and we'll just want to go through it. I went and pulled margin protection, and we have the different inputs that make up for the cost of it in the contracts then that they use. So again, sales closing date, and I just picked these for Brookings County, and our projected price is determined this month, the middle of August to middle of September. And here's the contract that they're using to discover that price. And that's for DAP. So just wanted to make you aware of it. And on this one, we're doing diesel. These are the ones that changed diesel, DAP. And then I think this should be urea over here. And it's using May's contract also. Potash, if I get to that, potash is here. Potash doesn't change. They set the price now, but it does not fluctuate. There will not be a change in that. And then added on to that is interest rates. So those are some things that have to be discovered for this margin protection. Just wanted to show some graphs of where we're at with fertilizer prices. And these are taken from Josh Linville and StoneX, so we'll give them credit for it. And gosh, we're still high. I mean, it's come down, but boy, we spend a lot of time in this 55 to 65, and now we're right at 85, and that is bushels of corn, of new crop corn that it takes to pay for urea. So we've come down off of last spring's, but we're still fairly high. And we'll just go through each of them. What are we showing here? I think this is potash. again, high, gosh. It's just going to come back to that guys are going to have to do that soil testing and really make sure they know where they're at, and probably really good risk management. I don't know that you want to be pricing one without selling product on the other end. And for some of these slow moving minerals or fertilizers, if your levels are not in the low range, then maybe you can get by a year without them. You just got to really work to make sure that that cash flow is working. And part of that's really going to start with good soil testing and know where you're at there. And then phosphorus, the same thing. This would be where we're at currently with the dark line. Yeah, and with our interest rates, creeping up, I'm going to kind of finish with that financial management is still, or it's increasing in importance, and working capital is going to be key to help work through these times of high inputs and higher interest rates. And it's our safety net, and allows us to take opportunities of things that may be out there if we have that strong working capital. Encourage guys to keep a rolling cash flow. Just don't fall back on the high land values as Evert had talked as an asset base lending program. Keep that cash flow in mind, and how's that looking 18 to 24 months out. Actually make use of it, do the actuals and monitor it monthly or quarterly, whatever's needed, but probably at least quarterly. If start there, or maybe start annual, work it twice a year, and then back to quarter. On our SDSU survey, we showed about a 27% increase in land value. And that's a little higher than what USDA, the USDA was showing, and that Evert said. I think it's all kind of relative, but the land prices are still held. I think if we go back when we had the last large run up in inflation and interest rates, land values held pretty good at the start of that. At some point, it's going to come into and impact that, where the capitalization rate will lower, and especially if there's not margin to keep the rents up there. So be things to watch as we move through interest rates. And gosh, if guys are looking at making purchases of land, just be careful that it doesn't put the whole operation at risk. I think Evert had made a couple points. I was looking to see that I caught those. And one was the land. And then also the prevent plant was the other one that I thought that was interesting. And those two states, North Dakota and South Dakota, really led that prevent plant in 19 and 20 for sure. That's what I have. I went a little quick, but that leaves us time for questions.